Unit 5, Lesson 1, a little bit of homework help for you. What we're after with this one is we want to complete the table for the function rule for the following input values. So remember that the function rule is this guy right here. It's the piece that tells us what we're actually doing. And some people call this a function machine. So our input goes in the one side, follows the rule that's given, and gives us an output. So our input, as it comes in, when we talk about the input 0, 0 divided by 4 is 0, and then I add 2 to that, and I get 2. One of the ways that we might think about this is that the input x is being divided by 4, and then add 2. And so our input rule, sometimes it might be helpful to see it as an expression, and that might help us a little bit. 2 divided by 4 is, of course, 1/2, and 1/2 plus 2 is 2 5/10, or 2 1/2, either one. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 1 plus 2 is 3. And we can begin to see a pattern emerging here of the outputs and the inputs. What you can do with this one here is, since that table isn't available, you have a couple of options. You can either upload a picture of it, drawing it on a separate sheet of paper, or you can click on this button right here, and then you can go ahead and copy and fill out the table, and then paste it into the solution or the answer section that's there. The next problem is the exact same thing, talking about adding in there or working with a function table. Again, you're talking about your input right here through the rule, and then your output. Wow. And so our input and output, let's see here. It says write 1 if the input is odd, write 0 if the input is even. So when we're talking about the evens and the odds, that's what we need to look at that and write even or odd. Again, you have a couple of options. You can put this on a separate tape or a separate piece of paper, or you can click right there and fill out the button or fill out the table that's given. Next part here, it says Andre's school orders some new supplies for the chemistry lab. The online store shows a pack of 10 test tubes costs $4 less than a set of nested beakers. In order to fully equip the lab, the school orders 12 sets of beakers and 8 packs of test tubes. Write an equation that shows the cost of a pack of test tubes in terms of the cost of a set of beakers, B. So when we're talking about this one, it says write the equation using the Wirus editor button. That means that they want you to use the editor button, so you'll actually click on that button to write your equation. You'll find that button inside of your text answer box. But when we're writing an equation, it shows the cost of the pack of test tubes in terms of the cost of the set of beakers, B. We need to be using those variables T and B. If you don't use those, you'll get marked wrong. Now, how are we going to be looking at those? Our first piece of this is the school orders some new supplies from the chemistry lab. Online store shows a pack of 10 cost $4 less than a set of nested beakers. So we're actually talking about two different things. We're talking about an equation that talks about the test tubes, or an expression for the test tubes, and we're talking about an expression for the beakers. Okay, this actually relates back to Unit 4, Lesson 15, where we're writing an equation to make sense of a situation. So in this case, what we have to talk about is the test tubes. Talking about in terms of T, we're talking about the cost of the test tubes in terms of the cost of a set of beakers. We know that the set of beakers is going to be $4 less than the cost of the test tubes. So the beakers are $4 less than the test tubes. So our equation that we should come up with right here, I'm giving this one to you because this is necessary for the rest of these to be successful. So the test tubes is the cost of the test tubes is equal to the beakers minus $4, so $4 less than the other. Whoops. Part B, school office just got a bill for the supplies in the amount of $348. So now it's our job to write an equation with T and B that describes the situation. Well, the most important thing to think about is this. Not the most important thing, it's all part of it, but $348 is the total bill. I have a certain cost that goes with the test tubes, and then I have a certain cost that goes with the beakers. But the question is, how much is each? Well, if we remember back to the previous problem, talked about that we have $4 less than the set that's nested. So we have this one equation already. But here's what we have to think about this. It's 12 sets of beakers and 8 packs of test tubes is what they ordered. So we have to think about that. The beakers, there are 12 sets of beakers and 8 packs of test tubes. At this point, I still don't know the total cost. All I know is that 8 packs of test tubes and 12 packs of beakers cost me $348. So that should go right here in this box. Since T is in terms of B from the first equation, this expression can be substituted into the second equation where T appears. Write an equation that shows this substitution. So when we talk about that, we go back to the first, or to this equation right here. 8 times T plus 12 times B is 348. And we want to use this expression right up here that recognizes the value of T. So what we can do with that is now we can take this value right here and substitute it in for T. And what that will allow us to do is find out the cost of the beakers. So when we take that, let's go ahead and just bring that down to this next section. And we take the equations that we were given, and we know that the first one, we have this, we have 8 times T plus 12 times B is equal to 348. But what we remember from up above right up here is that T has a value of B minus 4. And so we're going to take this T right out of here, and we're going to replace it with what we know the value of T to be, and that is B minus 4. And then that will be enough information for us to be able to solve our equation to get B by itself and find out how much just the set of beakers costs. And then after we figure that piece out, we'll be able to go back and find out how much that cost actually was for the beakers. And then from there, we can go back and find out what the cost for the test tubes is right here. So that's that part of it. The next problem is simply to solve the system of equations for both of these. Remember that substitution tells us that if y is equal to y, then that means that x minus 4 must also be equal to 6x minus 10. So x minus 4 is equal to 6 times x minus 10. Solve for x, put it in there. The numeric expression is something I want you to pay attention to. They don't want you to enter x equals. It goes contrary to everything I've told you. I need you to go ahead and figure that out. Or just remember that when we're in the real situations, pay attention to that piece. Identify your variable. Part B, you're supposed to figure out what y is. Well, if you know what x is, then you can substitute here and here, and that y better come out to the same. Otherwise, it's not the correct answer for x. The very last question says, for what value of x do these expressions have the same value? That wording right there, have the same value, that means that this right here is an equal sign. So we're just simply solving 2 times x plus 3 is equal to 3 times x minus 6. Solve for x. You got it covered. Thanks for checking in on homework today. Let me know how I can help.